Hello and welcome back to Raised by Giants 10K Roundtable Celebration Panel. It's been a long time coming for the channel. Finally crossed over that 10,000 subscribers threshold. Am I a part of the club yet? Can someone tell me if I'm a part of the club? Okay, I've been told that this is the magic number, the mythical magic number where all of your YouTube dreams come true and you're blessed by the YouTube algorithmic gods and everything gets easier from here on out, which I really hope it does. But I'm sure some of my guests can tell me if it gets easier, but I got a sneaking suspicion that it's not. But maybe now that I'm at that magical 10K number, Google will start putting my stuff in the search. Like whenever I have guests on from years ago that get on a really big channel like Joe Rogan or Sean Ryan, maybe now I'll get some residual views from moving forward with those shows. So got my fingers crossed on that, baby. But this wouldn't be possible without the viewers, the subscribers that's helped me along the way, sharing my content, being in the chats, leaving comments, hitting the thumbs up, because believe it or not, it really does help. And also to all the guests that I've had on and all the people that's been with me from the very beginning when I just started out, and all the channel members that help support the show monthly. Couldn't do it without you guys' help. And you have my deepest appreciation and thanks to you all. And that's how I'm going to introduce the first panel member here today. I just sent him an email and said, bring me on your channel or I'm going to send the aliens to abduct you. No, I'm joking. But I did send him an email and I just said, I listen to your channel all the time. I'm starting my own channel. Would love to have you on for a discussion. He said, no. And without hesitation, not even knowing me or what we were even going to talk about, and he brought me on. And I promise this isn't me being a kiss ass, because I don't do that. When I say things, I mean it. And without this individual giving me a boost in the very beginning, we probably wouldn't be here doing this show right now and wouldn't have a channel. So Wayne Steiger, welcome to the 10K celebration roundtable panel.
Honored, my friend. It humbled me. I was like, geez, you want to come out stage, you're going, all right, yeah, thanks. But no, you can see talent when you know talent. And I'm happy for you. I think that things will begin to turn much more to your direction. You put a lot of hard work into it. I mean, so you ought to reap something out of it. But what an exciting point. And you'll look back, when you hit that 50,000 and then the 100,000, it just means it's going to be a lot more sweeter. So, brother, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Wayne. I hope that it does. I hope everything comes easier, and I hope I'm a part of that fancy club. Always want to be a part of that fancy club. You know what I mean?
Do we have to wear a tie?
I should have worn my suit for this. This is a special occasion.
Dressed for the occasion, right? It's like, yeah.
That's right. Well, the next panel member is another person that I value very much, that also took a chance on me without really knowing me or what I'm about. I said, let's make a movie. He replied, how confident are you in your editing abilities? And I said, very confident. And he said, let's do it, again, without hesitation. And we've made 2 movies so far. And I single-handedly brought him out of retirement. And he picks up the phone most of the time when I call. Jay Weidner, welcome back to the show.
Hey, well, thanks for having me and congratulations. I remember when I hit 10,000, I was at 9,802 or something for like 7 months. I couldn't get over that threshold, and then they pushed me over, and then it happened to get at 20,000. And it's like every time I get close to one of the watermarks, I can tell that YouTube's got some kind of personal intervention coming in and making sure that they could make it as hard on me as possible. So I'm glad you made it. It's a tough one to get to, actually.
Yeah, they ripped a lot of subscribers from you, didn't they? Didn't they rip like 10K subs from your channel at one point?
Oh yeah, I got one day I woke up and I had like 7,000 less subscribers, and then there's nobody to go to, right? Who are you going to go to? There's no customer service or anything. Anyway, you made it, and that's a good thing. And yeah, it's a real pleasure working with you on the 2 films we made, and hopefully we're going to be working on the series that we're working on right now. We're just finishing shooting, and hopefully Amazon or Netflix will pick up the series.
I hope so, and I'm looking forward to continuing the relationship that we have and to a really bright and prosperous future. Next panel member is a high-ranking Illuminati member, rubs shoulders with all the top people in the community, lives next to a giant government contractor. He's definitely a Freemason. I'm just joking. Well, some of it I'm joking. I'll let you figure out which parts. I'm just kidding again. Full of jokes today. But in all seriousness, he's a solid individual, always out to lend a helping hand when he can. Brings me on his show a lot to talk about mine and Jay's documentaries, and somehow has the top viewed and most downloaded show on the audio only version of this channel. Charlie Robinson, welcome back to the show. How's it going?
Well, it is true. I do live right by a Lockheed Martin facility, but that is coincidental. I have nothing to do with the rocket launches or the summoning demons or whatever is going on over there. I just can see it from my desk, which is not the best. But
wait, so you don't work at the underground base under DIA, bro?
But I'll tell you what, they have some fun with it. When you go in and out of the Denver airport, you know, everyone knows about the paintings that were there. They've been relocated somewhere else, but they were doing renovation work on the main terminal, and they had everything kind of walled off where they're doing construction, and they did a really nice white wall with a silk screen image that was on it, and it had a picture of a lizard, a chameleon, wearing a crown on its head and holding a scepter, and it gave you a multiple choice question and answer for what they're doing. Pardon our dust while we work on construction here to build out the A, new underground base for the lizard people. That was the first one they put. B, or new underground, expanding the underground tunnels and facilities, or C, building you outstanding new restaurants and stores. I always wanted D, all of the above. They didn't give that as an option. That would be the correct answer there, but they like to rub it in our faces, don't they?
I don't know, Charlie. You go between Terminal A and Terminal C, and there's a lot of offshoots to that tunnel down there.
Yes, there are.
I'm actually a guy that broke the whole story. I moved to Boulder in 1996, right when it was being done, and I talked to some construction people, and they told me that there was these elevators that go way down, and big freight elevators. And so I got on Westward, which is the magazine for the Denver area, Westworld, maybe Westward. And I put an ad in saying, with an 800 number, saying anybody that worked on it to give me a call, keep it anonymous. And I got like 20 calls. And then George Norrie had me on right after that. And then I announced on George Norrie, and the whole world went completely crazy. It was the most amazing thing I've ever been involved in. And I could tell you a whole bunch of stories. I was eventually on Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory, giving him a tour of the airport. And we were followed around by like 15 airport cops who were watching us and filming us. And it was just crazy.
Yeah, I remember watching Jay on what was it, a local news station
Channel
that
9,
interviewed for it?
The Channel 9 out of Denver.
Oh yeah, Chris, yeah, Kim and was that Mark Colbert back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you got to talk about the demon horse too. I mean,
Of course.
that damn thing. I mean,
and for a while they had Anubis looking through the window, a giant Anubis statue looking through the window right where the Freemason plaque is.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, okay, we got an Egyptian god looking down on the Freemasonic plaque, and nobody can explain what this is about and who funded it and why is it here. And it's like, what?
Nothing
so
to see here.
those funny signs.
You got to know where to look, but yeah, you can find that New World Airport Commission plaque right next to, if you're looking out the window towards the hotel that's now built between it and the horse. So I guess they got rid of the Egyptian god of death from the airport. What a set your mind at ease before you get on your airplane.
There is no New World Airport Commission. I looked for all over for it. Does not exist.
Yeah, they're the ones that supposedly, what, $9 billion paid for the damn thing?
Yep. And we went over budget by like $4 billion. And they said it was like, I can't remember, something about the baggage or something they had to fix. And one time I was driving to work in Denver right around this time period, 1998 or so, and it was Halloween. And the local DJ, I was listening to this rock and roll radio station on my way to work, and it was Halloween week, so they were looking at weird stuff in Denver, right? Scary stuff in Denver. And they said, tomorrow we're going to look at the Denver airport. So I tuned in the next day, and they literally, without the guy knowing it, they called the head of the Denver airport. They called him up right to his desk, and he answered the phone. He says, "Is it blah, blah, blah?" He goes, "Yeah, it's blah." He goes, "Hi, we're Bob and Ken with blah, blah radio, and we wonder if you could give us a tour of the secret underground base underneath the airport." The guy's like, "Don't ever call me again." And
in poker, that's called a tell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So,
well, but you talked about those murals. I mean, I was traveling in and out of Denver. I lived in Highlands Ranch out there, but I remember the murals. I mean, that was some strong negative psychic energy.
For sure.
Well, I have a story about that. I talked to the artist who did those. I can't remember his name now. He's a Mexican guy, Mexican American, and in 1997, he told me that he was told what to paint by the New World Airport Commission. And then he was interviewed again in, I think, 2005 by Westward Magazine. And he said, "No, I came up with all those ideas myself." So, I mean,
I mean, the whole airport is just big for absolutely no reason. Like the corridors and everything that you walk through, it's like so spatial. You could like walk for like 15, 20 minutes, like down some of those corridors and never run into one person. I did it. What is going on?
I did a Grammarica interview with him. I had it scheduled. It was on my calendar that I was going to be doing it. And I also had a flight out of DIA to Vegas. And so I was like, well, I'll get there a couple hours early. I have a travel microphone. I'll set up a place and I'll just do it from, the lobby. Well, it was so loud with them announcing flights over and over again that I had to I'd go upstairs one floor that I didn't even know existed. I went up there and then I found a fire escape. So I opened that up and I did the entire episode in the staircase where the fire escape was, with a travel microphone and my laptop set up there, just waiting for someone to come in and bust me, arrest me, think I was, planting a bomb or doing something unsavory. But it was the only place I could go to get away from all the constant overhead flight announcements.
Yeah, if you ever look at it from Google Earth, the runways make it look like a giant swastika.
Yeah, I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
Nothing to see here. Move on. And then you got the mounds as you're driving in from C-470, and you've got these, you think that they're hills, but they're actually the dirt that came. And you look at that airport and you look at the hills, and you go, no. I can do enough math to figure this one out. That something is very deep down there or very long or both.
Well, local farmers in the area say that during the building of it, they saw not trucks going in, but trucks coming out filled with dirt every day. Every 10 minutes, another one would come out. And yeah, if you go way out north and where the airport is, there's berms everywhere. So you see there's just trucks dumping stuff and don't know what to do with it. And it truly is a strange place. And again, you're right in the middle of the country. It's part of the I can't remember the name of the operation. But it's the operation to keep the government going. That's what it's part of. And so everybody has kind of an equal shot of flying in, right, from the various places around. And then we know that they've hollowed out the mountain at Cheyenne, and they probably have hollowed out other mountains, because why not? And so you go down there and you get on a train and they shoot you into a nuclear proof area inside the Rocky Mountains, where there's a command center and soldiers and food and water. And of course they're going to do that. I mean, you know.
That sounds like the plot of Space Force with Steve Carell. Have you seen that show?
Yeah,
It's like a comedy or whatever, but that's where it's like hidden inside of like a mountain in the Rocky Mountains. That's where they do the Space Force missions.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Dr. Strangelove by Stanley Kubrick. Peter Sellers. We have to build underground bases and take 20 women to each man so we can procreate.
And you can't forget SG-1.
Yeah.
I mean, that, Stargate.
Yeah, Stargate was a good show.
I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
Well, what do we think about these Epstein files here? Do we have any hope for them? Because a lot of the stuff was redacted in there. A lot of the client lists were redacted. I looked over the files, but they've been trying to push out that the people that are the contact list, like there were several people on the contact list, which people already knew about. That was already a thing. But they're trying to make the contact list be the client list when they're two separate things. What do we think about that? Do we have any hope for it? This is supposedly just one drop of 3 drops, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm remembering correctly.
I'd like to see the videos. You know what I mean? That and even then, I don't know that I would necessarily believe anything. I have no hope for this. I think that the people surrounding Trump are so loyal to Israel that you've got a real problem with them ever unmasking that component to it. I don't think they want to admit that Epstein worked for the U.S. intelligence as well. That would be a huge stain on them if they were to have to confess to that. There's more, of course. I mean, I think the sexual blackmail entrapment operation obviously gets a lot of interest, and rightfully so. But there are other things that he was working on. He was running Ponzi schemes with Stephen Hoffenberg. He was running arms. He was involved in some sort of weird eugenics program with Martin Nowak at Harvard. Not totally sure what he was doing in New Mexico with Zorro Ranch, but it felt very, talk about an underground facility. You don't know like what was going on there. So I think that it's great that the general public is learning that there's an Epstein-like figure out there. He's not the only one. He won't be the last one. But if it only stops with the blackmail entrapment, then they're missing a lot of extra stuff that Epstein was involved in that paints a picture of a guy who was very versatile in running financial scams and repurposing that money to institutions like Harvard with $30 million for Martin Nowak to study evolutionary game theory right before a massive COVID pandemic situation going on. I don't know. I'd love for his entire catalog of work to get dragged out into the open. So I don't know. I guess if this is phase 1, we're going to talk about what he was doing at the mansion in New York, which coincidentally is directly next door to Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's residence. 9 East 71st Street was Epstein's address. 11 East 71st Street is Howard Lutnick's address. Literally next door neighbors to one another. Makes me think that I don't think a lot of the real juicy details of the Epstein files will see the light of day.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I never thought they would get released. It was clearly a Mossad CIA operation. And it actually had been going on since Meyer Lansky. He's the first guy to create the prostitution in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, bring in the cops and the judges, and then film everybody behind a mirror with a 16mm camera. He once got up in front of the mob at a meeting, and he had a Tommy gun, on a tripod and a camera on a tripod. He said, "What do you think's more powerful?" And everybody chose the Tommy gun. He said, "Nope, camera's more powerful." And that began the operation. They've been doing it ever since. And you're right. They're probably got another one going on right now. And that's how they control it. The thing is that kind of either the Trump administration is a little bit, Pam Bondi is a little bit amateurish, or she doesn't really understand the gravity of what she's doing here, or something. But she should have never sent out the telegrams out to the American people that she was going to release it and then not release it, because now it's really starting to look suspicious.
Well, and it wasn't suspicious that, you know, she'd lost face with Jesse Walters, and that's where she announced it.
Yeah.
So then she put out the note to Patel telling him what the hell's going on. So it was Friday that was supposed to be the next reveal. Well, conveniently enough, we have the whole thing with Lizinski, and the whole thing blows up in the Oval Office, and everyone's now forgotten about the Epstein files because now Trump's starting World War III, you know, with Lizinski, and how convenient. And I just, before we went live, I just read in one of the websites that they don't think there's ever going to be a file released.
That's right.
Yeah.
I absolutely, I'm really sure they're never going to release the files on JFK, because what I've found out over the years, there's just no way. This thing has tendrils going out into every direction. The mob and NASA and secret space program, and it's just like,
wasn't that the rumor though with Jack Kennedy, was that he was connected to the mob?
Oh yeah, he was connected. Dad was mobster. Dad was running booze out of Canada with the Bronfman family.
That's it. Yep.
And then Meyer Lansky screwed Joe over, so he became like seriously anti-Semitic, even to the extent of going down to Hollywood and telling them not to make anti-Hitler movies. Really, he did that. And so, yeah, the Kennedy thing is so caught up in all of the worst aspects of America of that time. I can't even begin to fathom how they're going to do it.
You guys have done a lot of great work on JFK. I mean, that just feels like the intersection of where this country took a hard pivot to the right. You know, it was headed in one direction, and then after that, everything changed. You know, it feels like the any sort of America first, it got hijacked. I don't know if that was Israel's doing or a combination of everything, but
yeah,
boy, it's just
I
been.
think Bob Dylan did an interview like in the 80s, and he said that. He said all through the 60s, you just felt our country being swiped from us, starting with the Kennedy assassination. And by the end of the 60s, it was like a corporate power had just taken over. And what really happened was the mob just went legit. It's the end of Godfather 2. You know, we're going to be legit. We're going to join the corporate world. And it was Meyer Lansky's wet dream to join the corporate world. And that's what happened. And so the mob literally went legit and ruined America.
Bring back the mob, the good old mob.
The one that just shot each other.
Yeah, that was the whole thing for getting Bobby out. You know, he was the one that had the dirt. I remember that.
Sorry, I was muted. I do that every episode. Did I send you this, Charlie? This Vanity Fair article with JFK staged his own murder in a fake film 2 months before the assassination?
Yep, he filmed his own assassination, and Jackie was part of it. Jackie wanted to be a filmmaker, by the way, and so she was constantly making movies and staging things, and so here they were 2 months before staging the assassination, and that's what you would do if you were staging a hit. You would take the camera out and you try to get your angles right and figure out how you're doing it. And it turns out that she was actually played a much bigger part also in when Kennedy went to Parkland Hospital. The body She was the one that was the driving force behind getting that body out of that hospital into Air Force One like ASAP. Several witnesses have said, she was like, no, we're going right now. And she told the coroner from Dallas that no, I have jurisdiction. She's like, I don't care. Right. And she wanted that body out of there like lightning. And so this is all stuff I found out after JFKX came out. People just came to me and showed me stuff, including that article that Ryder just brought up. So there's a lot of high weirdness around the whole thing. And no, I don't think they're going to release it.
I've shown so many people that article and they have absolutely no idea what to think. And several of them have seen our film and they're like, wow, I don't even know what to say about this article.
It is amazing. I mean, it would be like, it's kind of damning, actually.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how I don't believe Trump ever said that he was going to release the Epstein files, right? He said that he was going to do JFK, he said that he was going to do RFK, and he said he was going to do Martin Luther King Jr. So far, those ones haven't been released, and the one he said that he never said that he was actually going to release has been partially released. I don't know, I think that's kind of interesting.
How are they going to release the RFK files? Noguchi, the coroner, said he got shot right here from like 1 inch away by a 22, which is exactly what you would do if you're a hitman. You'd use a 22 right up to the head, as close as you could get. It was clearly the guard that they just hired to guard Kennedy. It was clearly him that did it. There's like 14 bullet holes in the walls of that hotel kitchen. And the gun that Sirhan only had 6 bullets. I mean, the whole thing is, they can't release those files.
Unless they're heavily redacted, like the Epstein files.
Anybody that knows
read it,
anything
it's just all blacked out. That's the only way, I think.
I don't know. I mean, we're dealing with people that will kill you. And I've been saying for the last 2 weeks that if Kash Patel or the guy that's in defense or RFK suddenly had to die, we know that the war is on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Musk was talking about on Joe Rogan the other day. He was like, I can't get too deep into this corruption with US aid or whatever, or they might kill me. Said that.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wow.
Well, I mean, they're losing millions and billions of dollars. And so what are you going to do? I mean,
I think it's going to bring the consequence that we're already at it. You now have the bureaucrats who are at war with Trump, the Democrats who, I don't know, lost their message or whatever, but it seems like they've been exposed. And I'm not just saying that the Democrats were going to the cookie jar. Everybody was. And that the depth of this is that we've always said that there was a deep state. Well, the deep state was always this ambiguous something. Well, what we're seeing here, the deep state being the bureaucracies and the bureaucrats who were really running the country. The elections were just a sideshow. And what Trump is doing, I think, is my thought is that they're going to take them out. They can't continue to allow this kind of deep exposure to the core of what really is driving this country, what this country really is. I don't think people can handle it. And I think that if they continue to dig even further, I think by the very nature of the information, I think they're going to cause something to happen.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know somebody that's close to the Trump administration, and he told me that when Stammer invited Trump to Britain last week, they heard on the back channel chatter that there was a hit planned on Trump when he went to England. And so Trump said, no thanks, I'm not going. I suggest Trump to stay in the White House, to be honest with you. It's a lot of people.
I mean, it's from a spiritual position, as I see this country, I mean, they say the old saying, as above, so below as above, that, back in the days and when I left Christianity, but I was a deep minister, that there's apparently this conflict is up in the heavens. the beings that we can't see. And if that's the case, then all hell is about to break loose. I mean, that's what Trump is doing. I mean, for him, he's only got a certain amount of time. He knows that. They tried to take him out more than twice, that I'm understanding now. It's just interesting. And this is just me. When you have a man who is so thoroughly convinced that God has his hand upon him and that he is now fulfilling destiny of a divine level, and that's what Trump says. He says, and that has a whole different overtone on everything that he does now.
Certainly does. It's pretty interesting. I don't know where it's all going to go. I know that what they're doing, what the Trump administration is doing, is they're using this strategy that was thought up about 20 years ago, how a small group of dedicated soldiers can defeat a larger army. And the strategy was basically, what you do is you create so much mayhem that, because the way it works in the military is a bad general is a general that gets involved in the details of a battle. A good general is one that just gives a directive and expects the guys below him to carry out that directive as close as possible. But they make the decisions on the battlefield. So the strategy is how to break this kind of warfare up. And so what they do is you create so much mayhem day after day that pretty soon the generals are on their heels all the time, and they're responding to something that you did 4 days ago. And you've already done 12 more things since then. And so what happens is that the directives start to get confused. And then the underling people start making decisions on their own because they're not getting the directives as well as they should be. And then they start making mistakes. And that's what's going on with the Democrats right now, is they're not getting any directives. So they're starting to make mistakes. And so if you looked at NewYorkTimes.com in October, there were 10 lead stories. If you look at it right now, there's 100 lead stories. And so they're the guys that are leading the news mill. Everybody's looking at the New York Times for help. So all the big news outlets, and now they don't know where to go, which stories to pick, where to go. And I would say they're going to keep doing this kind of warfare. It's asymmetrical warfare on the opposition for the next 4 years. It's going to be exhausting.
Yeah. You can have a 10-step plan towards global tyranny, but if you can't get off of step 2, it doesn't do you much good. So to the extent that they can throw a monkey wrench into this and push their timeline out a little bit further. We've always heard 2030 as a agenda, 2030 as a real benchmark year for them. It felt like during the COVID years that they felt some sort of sense of urgency. Maybe they were behind schedule and they were having to catch up. And I think that that's a good place to put them. If you can put them in a place where they feel like their timeline is thrown off, then they're more than likely going to make some mistakes trying to catch up, and in doing so, expose themselves, expose what their agenda has been all along, and again, I think we make an assumption, maybe not us on this panel, but the general public makes an assumption that these people running the government are very good at what they do. In actuality, a lot of them are the worst individuals you can find. They're just heavily compromised, so they put them in a position of power and put a tie on them and suit and send them out there, and you catch them from time to time, and you go, wait, this is the best guy? Lindsey Graham is the best guy you could find to represent? This seems crazy to me. So I think that there is a little bit of hope in knowing how really disorganized they can be, and how unqualified these people, the puppet class that's out there to roll out these policies. I don't get a sense of that things are going well in Canada. When I see Justin Trudeau roll out a policy, it feels like everybody's laughing at him right to his face. So a lot of this, the mystique of these government officials as being above reproach has worn off over the last couple of years, and I think it's nice to see that. It gives us a little bit of a chance to catch up and throw a big wrench into their plans.
Well, they should be it's clear to me from the people I know and what they've told me that Trump is trying to build Fortress North America. And he wants Canada and he wants Greenland and he wants Panama Canal. And he's not kidding about it. And Alberta just yesterday indicated they would break and want to come to America because they're getting so screwed by Ottawa. So, you start breaking those off, and first the right-wing provinces break off, and then the maritime, and pretty soon, and then these tariffs are going to kill Canada. We're their biggest trading partner. So there is a goal here. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but even if it's just treaties between Greenland and Canada and the United States, something is going to unite the whole thing, and it's all done to thwart China, right?
Wayne, tell them, because Wayne was one of the first people to create a financial payment system online, and he was talking about this on my show the last time that he was on, and what their plans were for this digital-backed currency that they were talking about. How long ago was that, Wayne?
Well, let's see. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, tell them about that. That was really fascinating, about America, Canada, and Mexico.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I served as a consultant to the Fed, and it was in the digital realm. I mean, we were hitting the boundaries, but it's already been in the mix for quite a long time. Is that you'll see a unified Canada, United States, and Mexico, due to the threat of the BRICS is a good example of that. When I worked with the Fed, I already saw what it's called the North American dollar, and it was never to be a physical dollar, it was a digital dollar. And the reason for the digital dollar was that it was easily transferable amongst the three nations. So that's why we know when I developed the mobile application for churches to give by the mobile phone, there wasn't a process yet, but the IRS got very much involved with it because to them that this was a way to start filling in the gaps of allowing potential tax dollars going through that are not recognized. And so if you do mobile transactions or force people to do everything by a mobile transaction, you've basically now eliminated this underground economy that goes by a cash deal. You're now fairly versed into the digital world. So
that's what people don't realize. They think, oh, well, we're going to get this digital backed currency. It's already digital. It's been digital for a really long time. It's all on the computer. It's not, your money's not in the bank.
If we didn't have a digital system, you wouldn't have Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I mean, Bitcoin wouldn't be able to ride or be on the backbone of anything.
By the way, the capital of enslavement is going to be Denver.
Pardon?
The capital of that union between Mexico, Canada, and the United States is going to be Denver.
Yeah, and they're already setting it up like that. Yeah.
Great, more traffic, just what we need here.
Yeah, really.
Lord. But this was something that they talked about, that Aaron Russo spoke about in Freedom to Fascism in 2007, talking about this North American Union, the Amero or whatever he was talking.
Yep, that's what it was.
This currency, or this belief that that maybe NAFTA was opened it up from a trading standpoint, opened the borders that way, and then we would all get merged into one. That's interesting as a hedge against the BRICS nations.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, I think it's going to be curious if Musk goes through and actually audits, Fort Knox. I mean, I keep on thinking that that's just a headline because I don't. The risk is too great. Then I could be completely wrong.
I heard that there's a very serious group of things that have to happen before anybody can even begin to get into Fort Knox. And the person that I talked to knows all this, so that's impossible that it got robbed. He said, now, he may have switched it out somehow. In other words, it's fake gold in there now. But he says it's just too many checks, like 12 different really difficult things that you have to go through just to walk into the door. So And I'm sure that if he is going to go to Fort Knox, he's going to have to go through all of those steps, and so it could be months.
Who would
So I
make
guess
the
the
call
question-
on that? Would that be the military decision?
Yeah. It's the military, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Trump has said today, I read that he's going to do an executive order. No, excuse me. It's actually a bill in the Senate to basically begin to dissolve the Federal Reserve. And I'm reading this and I'm going, you know, what are you just trying to do? You're just trying to really to piss them off? Is this what the idea is? I mean, did they not read the book at Jekyll Island? Did they not? Does not even? No, apparently not.
Well, what he believes is that that the time period from 1870 to 1914 was the most prosperous time in American history. Average American in today's dollar was making like $100,000 a year. That's a regular worker, and take inflation and everything. And it was all paid for by tariffs. There was no income tax. And that's where he's trying to go back to. And it really was a prosperous time.
I hope he does. I hope he gets rid of that income tax. People have been talking about income tax and how it's fraud and a scam, and we're being robbed for decades and decades now. So they need
Not
to,
to
do
mention
about
just
that.
the man hours that are spent worrying, processing, itemizing everything. All of that just seems like, talk about a department of efficiency. You want to get rid of something that is just a grind on everybody. And again, of course, I know that they'll find new ways to extract money from us. But if it, I would be open to hearing some new ideas that didn't involve the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Funny, I just put out an episode of Macroaggressions yesterday called "The House Always Wins" on Jekyll Island, talking about Colonel Mandel House and him, his role in all of this, and Woodrow Wilson. And you just want to get in a time machine and just say, which one of these guys do I have to kill? Is it Woodrow Wilson? Is it Mandel House? Who do I have to strangle to save this country? Because it didn't think the wheels fell off after that, and I think that I would be, if anyone's talking about ending the Federal Reserve, I like the idea.
Love the idea.
B, you better beef up your security, and if that person gets on an airplane and sits next to me, I'm going to ding my little button and ask the stewardess to get me off there as fast as possible. Because
I've never understood why the idea, and I think it was Perot who actually brought this back in the 90s when he was running that. A national sales tax of 5% across the board. And people say, well, that seems a little steep, but we're in $37 trillion worth of debt. And that's probably the most fairest way that I think, if you're going to have to collect a tax, to do it. You don't need the IRS. You don't need Congress, who can't seem to have the ability to balance the budget. I don't even think most of those people can spell budget. But to me, it would easily transition the IRS out. If Trump's idea on the tariffs, because that's the way it was done before, I think it can still work today. There would be no reason for us to do that, ever have income tax.
Well, the beauty of tariffs is that you go to Canada, who sells us wood and oil, and you just say to those companies, well, you just moved your headquarters over into Montana, and there's no more tariffs. And so all the jobs start coming in. That's what was going on in the 1870s and 80s. Everybody had to move their company to America, or you got tariffed. And so we just kept growing and growing, and all the best people. It was called the brain drain. And we were accused of siphoning off all the smart people in the world and having them come to America. Well, let's do that again. I mean, that's a great thing to have to be doing. And so I think that's what's going on right in front of our eyes.
And in conjunction with that, this golden passport that he's talking about.
That's a great idea. That is the greatest idea of all. I got to tell you, that is really.
I think Justin Trudeau doesn't realize that that's even a possibility, because whenever Trump signed the order to impose the tariffs on Canada, Canada also imposed an order on tariffs on the United States. There's a 35% tariff for imports into Canada. But all they got to do,
bastard son of Castro. I just want to make sure I got the right guy. Okay,
that's Castro's
just
kid.
saying, just saying.
It definitely isn't his dad's, or the guy he claims his dad.
I mean, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm just saying.
No, he's a dead ringer for old Fidel. That's for sure.
Well,
What could
Trump
you
did
do?
say, in all honesty, he said it's going to be rough in the beginning, and I think he's right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shock to the system, and that's why I think he's the biggest threat ever to the system.
Well, as you were talking before, I mean, this is kind of guarded territory, I guess, but look who actually started the Federal Reserve. Look at who they were. Look who they were the agents of. Who was J.P. Morgan really working for, right? And then you realize that J.P. Morgan caused the Titanic to go down. He brought all the bankers, including my great uncle, banker from Pennsylvania, and they all died on the Titanic. And they were all the anti Federal Reserve people. So he got rid of them. Then he did the Jekyll Island right after that, and then it was in. And then, so what happened? So the tariffs went away, and now we had to pay for everything, right?
Right.
So what was really going on here? It was clearly a mafia of some kind at the center of this, controlling everything, knowing that if we have to pay taxes every month and every year, that will be more easily controlled, and that's what's going on.
Because
So in a
they're
way,
just
what
money.
it's doing is revolutionary.
Yeah, you have a quasi private government agency that prints our money and then sells it back to us at an interest. Yeah.
Right. Wow. How'd you get hooked up with consulting for the Fed?
I was on the team. We invented the first pay at the table in the United States back in 2004. And then I invented a system called FlowPay that was the first mobile transaction system designed for churches, but for all nonprofits to use your mobile phone.
Wow. And this was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pay at the table was, we were doing some really cool things back then. That was back in the day, when 802.11b was just coming out, and we were pushing the manufacturers, in this case, Verifone, to design a credit card terminal that was ergonomic and that would be able to hook up through the Wi-Fi to an enterprise system to where we would do the transaction through, in this case, a point of sale system, that the transaction would be pulled out of the point of sale system. We would do the transaction in the back door and then reconcile it with the POS system. And yeah, that's what pay at the table was.
That's crazy. I had a next door neighbor when I was living in Manhattan Beach, California, who's this computer scientist guy who bought this big mansion right across from the place we were renting. And we talked to him one day. We go, "Hey man, what do you do? What do you do for a living? Like, we're curious." And he says, "Oh, well, he says, I do a lot of things, but I do computer systems, payment processing and things like that." And I go, "How? Okay, explain it." He says, "Well, have you ever heard of the company called Stroud's?" And I said, yeah, they make, like linens and things. Yeah. He goes, "They approached me and said that when you swipe a credit card at the register to buy, the time between when you swipe it and when you get an approval was 12 seconds long. And they wanted to cut that time down. I guess their studies had shown people get frustrated or whatever. They wanted to cut that timing down. And so he said, I told them, I'll charge you $1 million for every second I shave off of that. And I go, what'd you do? He says, I hired a computer scientist, like a mathematician, to work on it. He says, I didn't really know how to do it. I paid that guy $100,000 and I took him from 12 seconds down to 6 seconds and pocketed $6 million for it. I was like, God.
Yeah,
what crazy story.
Why the Fed was interested in us was that we were the first company that was actually had the experience of the debit interchange. And for instance, California Pizza Kitchen was our first test client, and they're typically located next to universities. Well, university students don't have credit cards as much as they did debit cards. And so we were the first collector of metadata data on that. And so both the payment industry, both the feds, and of course others wanted to see it. So yeah, it quite exciting back in the day. It really was.
Did they try to steal your idea?
Hell yeah, we had to go to court.
So just checking. Just want to make sure the Fed was still the Fed.
Well, and it was actually one of the companies that we were working with. 4 years, over $8 million in legal fees. Yeah, I mean, but what I learned is that companies don't steal small profit items; they steal the big ticket ones. And pay at the table was still an early adaptation for the hospitality industry, and it represented to the company, in this case, approximately $1.5 billion in potential profit.
Yeah, that'll get it stolen, all right.
They'll screw an entrepreneur as quick as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Danny Casolaro octopus murder stuff with the Promise software, which I think is a really interesting concept too, because like people are relating a lot of the illegal immigration from Mexico and stuff to like voter fraud and stuff like that, to pack out these democratic states and even turn some of the red states into democratic states and all that. And I'm like, that's not really what it's about. That's like the surface level of it. It's really about illegal guns trade, illegal drugs, and human trafficking. That's the thing that it makes, all those things make the most money for the United States. And that's what all of that is really about. And which then relates to the CIA type of black budget breakaway group of people that have been operating in the United States, which gets into the Danny Casolaro Promise software and stuff, which Jay, I believe, talked on the phone with Michael Riconosciuto, which is a big key member of the Danny Casolaro octopus murder case.
Yeah, he was in jail in Tacoma, Washington, and I was living up in Seattle. I had a radio show. Started following the whole Danny Casolaro. It was actually had a dream. I was on the ferry going from Bainbridge Island to Seattle, and I had a dream. I fell asleep and I had a dream that this guy had his wrist slashed in a shower, and he was asking me for help. And I woke up, and then 3 or 4 days later, I found this story in the paper about this guy who cut his wrist in a hotel room and died. And then I started getting into the whole Danny Casolaro story, where they stole the Promise software and they embedded it into all the law enforcement computers in the whole entire United States, and with a trap door, so they could look into everything. And Casolaro was murdered tracking down that story. And it's just goes to show you that if you get a phone call in the middle of the night asking you to come to a country like West Virginia and go to a hotel to meet somebody, don't do it.
Hell no.
Believe me, I was the same age as Danny Casolaro when I was writing my Octopus of Global Control book, and I was thinking, I hope I don't wind up packed in some bathtub somewhere. But at that point, I realized that nobody knows who I am. I think I'm probably safe. But it was one of those things that I was keeping my eyes open for. Just because you come to understand that these people, there's no line in the sand that they won't cross. And if they think that you're writing some great expose on what they're doing and they've got big plans for, infiltrating the system, I mean, you have to give them credit for the brilliance of these ideas that they have. I mean, they're diabolical, of course, but the blurring of organized crime and government is just something to behold.
Aren't they one and the same?
Yeah, really, they are.
Well, they're definitely watching you. So don't ever for a second think they're not watching you.
Yeah.
If you're involved,
I try to bore them to death. They're like, this guy is so boring at home. He didn't do anything interesting. We want to get him caught up in some blackmail entrapment. He never leaves his house. I don't know what to make of him.
Well, I live out in the middle of nowhere, literally nothing around me at all. And right after JFKX came out, I've never seen anybody anywhere around me. Nobody. It's just nothing. It's just all desert and 8,000 feet. And about a week after the film came out, my dog's barking like crazy. Never heard it barking like that. And I opened up my door, and there's this guy standing there, and he's got a mosquito mask on, so I can't see his face. And he's like, I said, "Can I help you?" He goes, "Well, I'm trying to find my property." I go, "This is my property. You're not going to find your property on my property." And he's like arguing with me that it wasn't my property, right? And then he walked away. And I thought, what the heck, And I never understood who or what was going on. But You know, I definitely live in a house that probably frustrates the people that are watching me.
As long as you got a good kill zone.
I do. I got a long driveway, so I got plenty of time.
I mean, but it's true. I mean, the government is, you know, Murder Inc. I mean, it's
Really?
what they do, you know.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting how they're like the top layer is like what everyone is really getting, but it's really like all these other layers under it that is the like the real issue. Like the whole Danny Castellero thing wasn't only the promised software that they were putting a backdoor into the software and selling it to other countries so they can essentially spy on them and know exactly what they're doing at any given moment, but it was also about illegal drug trafficking. It was also about illegal guns trafficking. And even freaking somehow UFOs even got wrapped up into the whole entire story.
You get into that George Bush enterprise.
Yeah.
The government outside of the government that I don't control, as Clinton once said, or the Daniel Inouye talking about, they have their own Air Force, their own Navy, their own, you know, sources of revenue. And you go, well, who is this? This sounds like the government. It's like, well, it's sort of beyond the government.
Well, the president can't even get the scoop on UFOs and what have you. So that tells you right there, there's a layer that is above the law. I mean, they don't stinking law. Who needs that? I mean, yeah, and they control us. It's the frustrating thing that I see is that people try to say, well, you know, a sovereign, independent thinker, but we're so manipulated. We're manipulated by forces that we don't even see, but apparently there is this echelon. They know about it very well, and apparently they're very good at it.
Yeah, you seen that interview with the banker? I think he's Austrian. Can't remember his name now. He was about 40 years old when he did the interview, and he was brought in to the cult. And he decided at the last moment that he couldn't do it because it involved child sacrifice and a lot of other stuff. And he just wasn't that kind of guy. So he pulled back. And definitely that's what it is. I mean, it's exactly what you think it is. And this cult goes back a long way. It's a blood drinking cult. It's a ritual murder cult. They believe that the blood gives them extra power in life and all of that. And, you know, the Dracula myths are retelling of this cult, and there's a really good book out there like Blood and Cults or something, and it's all about the history of all this, and it's still going on, and yeah, all the people that you think are part of it are probably part of it, and that's why
that was Ronald Bernard, the Dutch banker.
Yeah, that's right.
He talks about, you know, once they brought out the children, I couldn't do it, and you could see. I mean, that if that guy was acting, they had to give him the Academy Award for his role, because he looked like a guy who was very, very much conflicted by what he had seen and had been asked to do.
Yeah, one time I took out I knew this guy was high-ranking CIA, and he would say, "I'm not talking to you, Jay. I'm not talking to you. You might be CIA. I'm not going to tell you anything." So I took him out to dinner. I got him lubed up, and I said, "Here's what I'll do. I'll make a statement. And if it's true, you blink your eyes. If it's not true, you don't blink your eyes." And so I just started making statements, and it kept blinking at everything I was saying. Pretty soon I got we have a base on the moon, blink. We have a base on Mars, blink. I'm like, what? You know, and so it just got crazier and crazier. These Luciferians running the government, blink, you know.
Blink, like, blink, okay. blink.
Yeah, so, you know, I came to the conclusion that there really is this nefarious group up there, and they will kill you, period. They don't care at all about you. In fact, they believe their spiritual beliefs are that you came down here from the plasma cloud that's around the earth, and you solidified into a human, and all we're doing is sending you back where you came from. So they don't care at all about us. So none of us.
Well, now that you put it that way,
tough to defend against that, right? When they don't view you as even being a human being with feelings, or that, hey, listen, we're just going to recycle you back into the universe. You won't remember this anyway. You know,
doing you a favor. Yep. And that's how they think about it. And that's how the mob thinks about it. The mob's all the mob in the United States is either very, very religious Jews or very religious Catholics. They're very religious. They go to church and synagogue and they pray. And I know them. I mean, it's like incredible. And you're like, they don't feel anything bad about what they do.
Well, I've contended that there was a time when I was a member of they would say it was far right organization. It was put together when Reagan was office, and one of the persons I got to know really well was Ed Meese, former Attorney General.
Yeah.
But there is a tangibleness to these individuals who obtain power, particularly in politics, senators particularly. And I swear, I think that there is like the pod people. They may be a good human being when they're elected, but they get into that office and before you know it, something's changed. And it's a palatable presence you can feel. I can remember a couple of senators I can think right offhand. And even when you shake their hand, one was like shaking the hand of a dead fish. I mean, which questioned me, well, what's really inside that sack of bones? But yeah.
Well, that's the thing with Trump is that I can't think of one president in my lifetime, which I'm younger than all of you, but I can't think of one president in my lifetime that has said something during the campaign running up to president that he's going to do, gets in the office, and then does it. Nobody has done it. Trump has been the only one that has campaigned on these things, said that he's going to do something, then gets in the office, and then actually does it.
Oh, he's already faced death. I mean, now let's really get into his opponent's head. I mean, listen, I watched the State of the Union, and I thought it was interesting. It was history being rolled out there. But it's amazing how he's been able to internalize the fact that a bullet was meant for him, and that he was looking at someone in the opponent's side of the room that most likely knew about it or helped planned it. And I think, Ryder, to your point, at this point he's got nothing to lose, and I think he's getting so deep into the opposition's head. They're starting to get a little weird.
Oh, they will get weird because the strategy I was telling you about earlier, the whole point of the strategy is to get your enemy to fire all their ammunition into the empty woods where they think you are, but you left 3 days before. And that's how the strategy works. So you're constantly moving. It doesn't even matter if what you're doing makes sense. It just has to throw them back, keep them on their heels, and make them always stepping backwards. And that's what's going to happen. And so you see a lot of absurd things being said and weird stuff that's probably not even going to happen, but they're just saying it just to throw it out. I believe he's probably got a team of 7 or 8 people that are just designed to come up with new stuff for next week. Come up with stuff for next week. Give me 50 stuff. I want 50 things by Wednesday, right? And
Ryder, you get a job doing that, man. They should hire you. You put your writing films. You're like, man, I can come up with some better ideas than what these guys have got.
So here's my theory about Trump.
Super intricate.
That on January 13th, if we go back and we look at the Roman Greco period and how their cultures, their governments, and society itself, they looked at certain mortals that when they passed the test of the gods became demigods. Yeah. And these were mortals who were on their way to immortality. And I said, if we were to use that overlay and put that over Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, I said, Trump faced that test. He faced the same test as Hercules. He faced death, and he came up fighting. So that elevated him in the God's eyes that now he is worthy of becoming a permanent demigod. And hear me out on this. I mean, today he's almost got a Messiah complex, which I'm not saying is bad, but he's like, I'm the only one that can do this and I'll get it done. And he's doing it.
It's amazing what an alpha male on a um, spiritual journey can accomplish. And
Yes, yeah, they can move mountains.
yeah, and I don't know. You know, the whole assassination attempt is just so weird. They cremated the guy, secretly about 10 days afterwards. There's a photograph of the FBI agent spraying down the crime scene.
Yeah.
That CNN, only time they've ever shown a Trump rally was that day. Melania was watching. She saw it happen. I'm not even sure that Crooks is really the guy. There's another guy who is a pro-Ukrainian activist that was also at that rally, who has since disappeared, by the way. And I've tried to contact the guy through Facebook because he's got a Facebook page. I wrote to him. He's not made a post since the 12th of July. And I wrote to him on like July 20th. I said, "Are you alive?" And he never wrote me back. And so I think that Crooks was either, they had two guys out there or something else going on. And by the way, he got 8 shots off before the snipers took him out. It's like, what? 8 shots? They were looking at him. We all seen the video. They had their scopes on him and everything, and that they allowed him to get 8 shots off before they fired back. There's just so much here that I don't know. This is like worse than any of the other assassinations, because it really looks like Joe Biden gave the order to shoot Trump.
Dan Bongino said in his one of his last podcasts that he's going to bring it out. He said,
it's funny how that just kind of all went away too. Like no one really talks about it anymore, and
Nothing.
it just kind of brushed under the rug, you know.
They never interviewed his parents. No one's ever attempted to interview his parents.
Where did Cheatham go to? I'm swearing that her whole story has got stink all over it. I mean, interim director for the Secret Service. She goes and personally sees Trump after the assassination attempt, and then directly after that, she disappears.
Yeah,
Never to be seen, never to be heard, has never testified before the Senate or any other. In fact, what gets me is that the Senate or the House, they've given up on all the investigations.
Yeah, what's going on with that? I don't even understand that. Why? It was a Republican Congress. They could have opened up immediately opened up an investigation. And they didn't.
So not a word.
It's really curious. Really curious.
Fort Bragg storyline kind of running through it, especially with the guy in South Florida that on the golf course. That Ghosts in the Machine commercial, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, that they put out there a couple of years ago, talking about we're everywhere, you know, that they were calling their shot, talking about how they basically create reality, and then to have this overlap of Fort Bragg showing up kind of over and over again with regard to the January 1st situation with the Cybertruck guy or the the person who's running over people in New Orleans, and they all have these ties to this one place that happens to be where the U.S. Army Psych Warfare office is based, and they're running ops out of there, and you just go, boy, I get a really bad feel. I might not know everything that's going on here, but I get a bad feeling about this, that maybe that the calls were coming from inside the house on this one.
Well, and then we just got the picture of Crooks talking on the phone right before the assassination. He's on the phone with somebody. It's like, what? That you for sure we have the record for that. They can't hide that.
You would think.
Okay. So he had a cell phone, so they know everywhere that he was that day. Or don't they have the cell phone? Which is it, right?
Well, they said
That's
that
right
they
off the
didn't
roof.
have
What happened to the white van?
Yeah,
the
what
van
happened
filled
to the
with
white van
explosives?
with the bodies in it?
What happened there? You know,
Yeah.
nothing to see here. We'll move along.
What's the story with the white van? I haven't heard this one.
Yeah, there was you might want to help me here, but there was
It was the evening. I mean, it was like 4 hours later, they found the white van, parked off a side road.
Yeah, and the parked right next to a person's house that was involved.
Yeah.
And it was either on stage or something with Trump. And it was right next to their house. And it's like, and there's a big story, and then it just went away.
Gone. But the CNN thing is the one thing as well, which tells me it had to be, an inside job. I mean, yeah.
That's pretty much what I think for sure. And,
if I'm carrying an AR-15 at a country fair, you don't think someone's going to go, it's like, oh,
and
sure.
a giant freaking ladder. He's bringing a giant ladder.
Not a problem, yeah.
Well, we can't figure out how he got on the roof. He had to have a ladder, but we don't know where he got it. And so it's very strange because they won't tell us. Again, how did he get on the roof exactly, right? And then they say that the guy crawled up the ladder, one of the policemen, and looked over and saw Crooks with the gun. And then he fell off the ladder. But they never tell us where the ladder was or anything. And what was it doing there? Why would you have a presidential candidate coming in and you're leaving a ladder that allows access to the roof? I don't know.
You get up there and it has an arrow pointing upwards.
Right.
And the two guys that were on that roof, watching that roof, both left just minutes before the assassination attempt. Both guards that were looking through the window that would have seen Crooks, one went to the bathroom and another one went to check outside for something. So they were both missing in action at the same exact time. Come on.
I chalked that up to the burritos they ate earlier.
Yeah.
Sounds like the Jeffrey Epstein thing too, where he was on suicide watch, and then the camera stopped working the moment that the guards weren't on duty. Same type of scenario there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, of course, about Epstein is that the guy that's on the stretcher that they're taking out of the jail, the dead guy, that is not Epstein's nose. Sorry, that guy has a different nose. So.
So as we're talking about all this, you can't help but not step back and going, is this really reality? I mean, it almost feel like we're an NPC that it's like nothing you and I do doesn't matter. They're playing this film out. We just happen to be in the midst of it. It's weird. Makes me wonder what else they got planned for us.
And you guys make movies for a living, and you've done this, and you understand continuity and how the storyline has to follow a certain path, and it has to be believable. But they don't, because the path falls off halfway through. The story is completely unbelievable, and you go, "Wait, wouldn't you bring in like a director type to run the operation and make sure that everything makes sense and ties back to the previous scene?" Whatever previous scene, the last presidential administration or something. But instead, there's major plot holes in this whole thing that never get addressed, never get tied up. We just go, well, I guess that's just how the world works. And it's like, no, who put the ladder there? I want to know who put the ladder there. That is a plot hole that we need to address before we move forward with this movie. And they're like, the movie rolls on, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, there's we show in Clockwork Shining that Hollywood, that the government, probably the CIA, was looking for the top 5 movie directors back in the early 60s, and Kubrick was one of them. And then I heard rumors years ago that Kubrick was the director of the JFK assassination, right? And that the movie Full Metal Jacket is talking about that and telling you about it. Not only is JFK, the initials JFK, in the title Full Metal Jacket, but they talk about Lee Harvey Oswald and being a good sniper in the movie and all these other things. And so maybe there's no good directors anymore. Maybe that's the problem. And so they don't understand how to tell a story.
Digify and use CGI. That's the way of the Marvel movies. Continuity, schmontinuity is what they say.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah. I'll let the editor take care of it.
That's a hard job. It makes it difficult on us, Wayne.
I've been there. Oh, yes.
This is probably truer than we think. I hate to say it. There's probably some poor schmuck editor out there who has to make all the decisions on the ground about, Sandy Hook and all the assassinations and everything, because the guys on top are all snorting coke and not paying attention to anything anymore. That's what it looks like anyway. Because if you do examination of like the Boston bombing, like this collapses so quickly.
Embarrassing.
Oh my God. It's just
Like
so bad.
they sent in the JV team to run that up.
Really? That's
Just
so
do
bad.
whatever, and we'll figure it out.
Videos of guys with bags of fake blood spraying it all over everybody. It's like,
Right. Loudspeakers going off. This is a drill. This is a drill. You can hear it in the camera. And you're like, well, I don't know what to tell you guys. I mean, this is fake. It's as fake as it gets. But it almost. I wonder sometimes if it's like there's two versions of it. There's one version, people don't dig too deep, and they go, oh, it's all must be real because the television told me so, and they believe that. And then there's us, the segment that has questions for it, and we go, God, it's so fake, it's falling apart. I wonder if they're thinking, good, we want you to see that. I want you to see how fake it is, because it's not even though you rightly called out how fake it is, it's not going to stop. There's nothing you can do about it.
In fact, we're going to drive you crazy by giving you even more fake stuff.
Right.
It's the scene in Dark City, the cop that realizes what's really going on. And he says that they're changing the city every night. They're moving everything around while we're sleeping. And everybody's like, yeah, right, buddy. You're right. Yeah. And he's the only guy that actually understood what's really going on. Right. And what does he do? He commits suicide. Right.
It'll make it go crazy. Right. If you figure it out when you're early, you sound nuts.
So if you're 2 steps ahead, you're a crackpot. If you're 1 step ahead, you're a genius.
Right.
Good movie, by the way.
It was one of the great movies of all time. By the way.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Can't be too far over the target. Now, what do we? I think that if Trump is going to do the Epstein files, if he's going to do the JFK files, if he's going to do the RFK files and the Martin Luther King Jr. files, he should also release the 9/11 files.
Oh,
Are we in agreement? I think that he should.
There's a famous video of Trump sitting up on top of a building, pointing at the World Trade Center, all fall apart, smoke coming out of it. And he said, I watched that thing being built. I understand construction. That thing is built like a soup can. There's no way that it could be taken down.
Yep.
I mean, he said that like 2 days after 9/11.
Yep.
So he knows that it's fake.
He knows.
He lost a lot of friends too, by the way, in the fire department that were his friends. So he's got a bone to pick in that one.
Well, you can't forget Rumsfeld the day before sitting in the Pentagon step when he had to admit that they couldn't pass the audit. $11 trillion was missing, and, all shit was supposed to hit the fan, so to speak, the next day. And, well, there we go.
And where did the missile hit? It hit the auditing department and killed all the auditors.
I think it was right there in the standing,
A real smooth operator like Rumsfeld to understand the news cycle and how that works. And if you want to announce the missing money on September 10th, it would rightly be a huge story the following day, unless there was an even bigger story to push it off the reel. So there we go.
It never made it into the news cycle again, though.
Just like the owner of I can't remember the owner of the World Trade Center went to breakfast every day on the 99th floor restaurant. He just missed one day. After all the time he owned it, he only missed one day.
Oh,
can you imagine you're eating breakfast at the restaurant and you're looking at the waiters and the cook and all the people, and like, tomorrow they're all going to be dead because of me.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a special kind of person to be able to be involved in something like it. It takes somebody that is evil on a level that I can't really comprehend, I think.
Yeah, when X started going free speech, people were starting to put up old YouTubes that had been taken down, during the purge, right? And so it was really interesting for a little while. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but there's this one YouTube where this guy on 9/11 in New York with a camera goes through a broken window of the World Trade Center 7 and starts walking up the stairs, and nothing's on fire. There's nothing's wrong or anything. And he meets a security guard, and the security guard goes, "You can't be in here. You got to go. This building's going to blow." So it was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd seen one of those. I wasn't for sure if it was real or not. He was going through there and there was nothing in the building.
Nothing.
At all.
That's right. There was nothing in the building. No furniture, nothing. In the lobby, it was empty, completely empty. It was incredible. It was definitely World Trade Center 7 because
Did you guys ever see the Farsight Institute remote viewing of 9/11 sessions that they did? There was like 7 different videos as a part of it. And one of the ones that they did is they were, they've got the whiteboard going and Dick Allgire's drawing everything out. And he's talking about this team of people. He's like, they've got a map. They're putting something flexible on beams, on pillars or something. He says they don't know, they're not familiar with this building because they keep checking the map, but they're clearly familiar with working together as a small, tight little group. And once you get a little bit through listening to it, you can extrapolate out that they're talking about Building 7 earlier in the day, talking about wrapping explosives around columns and whatnot. I don't know if that could actually be done in the amount of time needed to do it, or if that was done even further in advance, but I think it goes without saying that that was a controlled demolition.
Alex Jones says it was a cover for Gold Heist.
It was. No,
The tunnels underneath Building 7 was where private corporations and individuals. Yep. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, they found a truck full of gold. The firefighters did. It was like a truck that got abandoned. It was full of gold. Yeah. So they were robbing all the banks. It's a Die Hard. It was Die Hard. It was a fake terrorist operation. It was a bank robbery disguised as a fake terrorist operation.
That's some cold-blooded people, man. I mean, taking down 1,300 lives or how many? What, for gold? But yeah,
that's what they think that the Vegas incident was also about. That it was some kind of Mossad heist gone wrong.
Wouldn't surprise me.
No. Well, I know there's a video from Vegas showing Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia in, I think, the Tropicana, and he's got 4 guards, and they grab him by the arms, and they're pushing him through the casino, like racing him out of there as fast as they can. So could be some kind of kidnapping plot against him.
I talked to a friend of mine who's an anesthesiologist in Las Vegas, but he and I grew up together, known each other since we were 10 years old. And I asked him, were you called in on that day? And he said, yes, I was there. And I said, how was it? He said, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. He's like, I'm talking about operating rooms that had an inch of blood on the floor everywhere. And he said, I'm permanently traumatized after seeing what I saw there. And doing what I was trying to do to help people out. He said it was really bad. So
no, people that say it's fake, they're completely wrong. No. I've seen the film on the ground, bullets slicing right through a girl's head. There's no way, man. That was real.
Yeah, that was
real. It looks like it was from helicopters. Actually, it's starting to look that way.
If you ever read or follow the John Cullen work that he did, he's done a lot of work on helicopters and firing. And I lived in Vegas for 10 years. And the last time I was there, I was staying at Mandalay Bay. And I went out for a little walk with my camera and filmed a little, this is the direction that, this is where the event was. This is where the hotel is in relation to it. Again, since we might as well mention it was in front of a big obelisk, which I'm sure wasn't accidental as well.
The biggest fake pyramid on Earth is right there.
Big black pyramid with an obelisk in front. Yeah.
Yep. And there's just a lot of weirdness around that whole thing. All the activity going on in the air between the airport and that area, and then the patsy. They're trying to tell us that guy fired like hundreds of rounds. Come on. These people have never dealt with guns. I can tell you that, because, I mean, there would be so much evidence that guns had been fired in that hotel room. It would be impossible to hide, and there's no evidence.
But Jay, it's okay, because Ellen DeGeneres got to the bottom of it by having the security guard on her show a couple of weeks later, who looked very confused and was unsure as to why he was there. She even showed a diagram and said, "This is what happened, right?" Not, and he's like, "Yes."
What was the guy using? Was it a 223 or?
Well, I think it was a 223.
308.
But they said they had several guns, so he had a whole bunch.
I have a 308. I have 222, but as well. But if you're near a 308 that's being without ear protection or anything, you're going to hear that in a hotel. You hear that damn thing on the other side of the hallway, all the way down the other end.
There's no way around it. Everybody
No way
around
around it.
Yeah, no way around it.
And people were calling in police reports from like 5-10 blocks away at like other hotels where they were saying people were
Oh, yeah.
firing.
Yeah.
Like what is
Bellagio.
going on with this scenario?
It was like whoever did it was a highly intelligent operation, well thought out, and for reasons unknown. It was to create some kind of distraction. No, that's for sure. And what they did, maybe it was a bank robbery. It could be. I mean, the Anunnaki want all the gold on Earth, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do.
Get us the gold. Get us the gold hidden
Gold,
under
man.
in the
Show me
vault
the
under
gold.
Bellagio.
Is there a vault under the Bellagio that we need to know
No,
about?
I'm just saying there is in the Ocean's movies. There is.
Yeah.
There is.
Oh, I'm sure there was vaults under every casino.
I wouldn't.
Oh,
doubt
the
it.
count room.
The count room is one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
gentlemen, it's been a really fun discussion. I really appreciate all of you guys coming in and having this this celebration 10K roundtable panel with me and everyone in the chat. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it.
And
as
congratulations too, Ryder.
Yeah.
Here's to the next 10,000.
Yeah. I think
Congratulations.
the next 10,000 will be easier than the first 10,000. Unless, of course, this conversation gets you completely kicked off, which is
Now,
fine.
they've given it to Tulsi Gabbard, and she says, "I've been waiting for this." It's those two. Now,
I think we'll be
who those
okay.
two is, I ain't saying.
They've lightened up a lot. Too many people are talking about this now. Too many big channels are talking about it for them to do anything. Wayne Steiger, let everyone know where they can find you online, brother.
Our Wayne Steiger, right over there on YouTube.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Wayne. Appreciate your time this
Thank
evening.
you, Ryder.
And Wayne's links to his channel is in the description of this video. Stay with me, Wayne. Jay Weidner, where can they find you online?
jwidener.com, and Reality Check is my show on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and type in Jay Weidner Reality Check. And I'd like to have you on, Charlie, actually
Absolutely.
talk about all the dark stuff I love to talk about.
I would love it. Please, Ryder will
Yeah.
make it happen.
Jay, where can they find our documentaries real quick?
On Amazon and Apple TV, you can find The Clockwork Shining. And we had a little blip with JFKX, but it's back up now. And both are doing really, really well. I'm just really, really happy with the fact that we were able to pull off two really good films on just absolutely no money at all.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much, Jay. Stay with me. Charlie, brother, thanks so
Yes.
much for coming on. Really appreciate it. It's been a while since you've been on. Let people know your channel, your podcast, your website, anything you would like to plug.
Yeah, I'm starting January 1st. I'm the new owner of Activist Post. You can go to activistpost.com. We republish amazing articles from independent journalists that are fearless, the type that write about the things that will rightly get them killed. So check out activistpost.com. You can find Macroaggressions as an audio podcast wherever podcasts are served. You've been on multiple times. We've talked about JFKX. We've talked about Clockwork Shining. We've talked about all kinds of things. So I encourage people to take a look at it. Subscribe to the podcast. It's free, so you get what you pay for, but it's out there. And I appreciate you for having me on.
Thanks so much, Charlie. Really appreciate it. All of Charlie's links are in the description of this video. I got your website linked down in there, and stay with me, Charlie. And for everyone else, thank you very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being a subscriber to this channel. Really appreciate each and every single one of you guys. And please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel and the algorithm. Share, subscribe, hit the bell icon as well for notifications. All of my links are also in the description. We'll see you guys next time.